Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our press briefing. Today I only have one short personal announcement for you. Today is my last day as a spokesperson in this press room. As from tomorrow, I'm going to start a nice new adventure in another part of the European Commission. But before I do that, I want to tell you a couple of things. When I started this job, I had never ever seen a journalist in my life. The only two journalists I knew were actors, Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford from All the President's Men. I came to the SPP, I started my job, and then I met you. So, allow me in the next 45 seconds to tell you what I really think of you. You are nosy, demanding, impatient, difficult, no, very difficult, relentless, hard to please, always wanting more, and never taking anything for granted. You are exhausting. And that's exactly, ladies and gentlemen, why I'm actually quite fond of you. These are also reasons that I give when I explain to my children why it's so important that we have you. What you do is actually what we need, what every healthy democracy needs. It is a critical, top-notch, professional press corps that tries to report as objectively as possible to our citizens on what's happening in the corridors of power, providing context, insights, explanations, and yes, also criticism. So yeah, your role is quite crucial. And even more so in an age of disinformation, misinformation, spreading of crazy stories and narratives out there, where I sincerely hope that you can continue to feed people that are hungry for fact-checked information and context. The second reason why I'm actually quite fond of you is very simple. I like you. Over the years and during the many crises that we have gone through together, COVID-19, anyone? I have developed with many of you a very nice relationship based on mutual respect and sympathy. And so I can tell you that in spite of all the pain that you have inflicted on me for almost 6 years, it was a pleasure and it was an honor. Therefore, two very simple words, straight from the heart. Thank you. And now I give you an opportunity, one last opportunity to exhaust me with all your terrible questions. Yes.
Thank you very much, Thomas Mundersen at Euractiv. Congrats on your new position, and thank you very much for the praise. I have a question for Olaf about the status of the joint statement between the EU and the US. I mean, could you elaborate or could you explain what's going on there, and are we expecting anything soon? Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for your question, Tom. Here's what I can tell you. EU and US negotiators are, as agreed, working to finalise the joint statement, building on the agreement reached between Presidents von der Leyen and Trump. We will communicate more precise timings to you when these are known. In the event that more time is required to finalise the joint statement beyond August 1st, in other words, what will happen tomorrow when the US ends the suspension of its so-called reciprocal tariff rates, which have been paused since July 7th, it is the clear understanding of the European Union that the US will implement the agreed across-the-board tariff ceiling of 15%. It is also our clear understanding that the US will implement the exemptions to the 15% ceiling as outlined by President von der Leyen last Sunday. This means that from tomorrow we will have the immediate tariff relief we have worked so hard to achieve, and thus a far stronger position of stability and predictability for EU businesses and consumers. The US has made these commitments. Now it's up to the US to implement them. The ball is in their court. for additional exemptions negotiations continue.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions on this topic for, not surprisingly, indeed for Olaf? Yep. No, sorry, you have a follow-up. I'm sorry.
Yes, sorry, this is just another question about the retaliatory package. So again, this 93 billion, this is still, there's no plans to kick this further down the road. Right now, they're still set to kick in on August 7th. Is that correct? Thanks.
Look, it's very simple. If everything proceeds as we expect it to proceed, of course we will suspend the retaliatory tariffs. If we have reached a deal, we don't need the retaliatory tariffs. So that's the position on that. I can't tell you precisely when the legal procedures will kick in, but that is certainly our intention if everything goes as expected.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello. Olaf, do you expect the Commission, does it expect the quota system for steel and aluminum to be already active tomorrow, or because this is a system that you need to design with the United States, do you think it will take more time to provide the relief for these companies? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Jorge. I don't expect this new quota system to be in place by tomorrow. We're working on it, and our intention is to have something ready and workable as soon as possible.
Hi. Congratulations, Stefan, on your new job. But on to business. I was wondering about, so for tomorrow, Olaf, can you spell out what will happen precisely? Does it really depend only on an executive order on the US side? And have you gotten any clear indications that there will be an executive order either today or tomorrow to implement the clear ceiling, as you call it? Because it seems like we just have to wait, basically.
Thank you for your question, Kuhn. I have nothing to add to what I said earlier. Indeed, you just have to wait.
Thank you.
Hi, Elisa from The Guardian. Is it possible, Olaf, that the US could implement the across-the-board 15% without an executive order? And then can you bring us up to date on what's happening on the EU side in terms of the implementation, whether the Commission has decided whether to go for that legal instrument that Sabine was talking about before, or some other route?
Thanks for your question, Lisa. The first is a question for the US administration. It's not up to me to answer what their legal procedures and decisions are. And I didn't understand your second question. Can you please repeat?
Yeah, so on Monday we were led to believe that the Commission, Trump issues an executive order, there's a joint statement, and those are the steps on the US side and partly on the EU side. But in order to give effect to the deal in the EU, a legal instrument needs to be organised. I think it was described as an autonomous legal instrument or an international treaty, which may take some time. So just do you have the timeline on how the deal is brought into legal effect on this side of the Atlantic?
Thanks for your question, Lisa. No, I don't have a precise timeline for how our side of the bargain will be implemented, nor do I need to provide one at this point, because the only thing that was agreed between the EU and US last weekend was that the American tariffs, as I described, would kick in on August 1st. That is our understanding. That's what we expect to happen. And for the rest, we'll work that out piece by piece. To repeat, last Sunday, a political deal was reached between the two presidents. Tomorrow, the US tariffs, capped at 15% with certain sectoral exemptions, it will kick in. That is our understanding. Next, we are working to finalise a joint statement with the US. The joint statement, I must clarify, is not a legally binding document, but rather a set of political commitments, a roadmap from which we take our cooperation forward. From there will flow the additional legal procedures that are required on our side. From there will flow the additional negotiated exemptions that we're looking to bake into our overall agreement with the US.
One more follow-up, and then I go to...
Yeah, thanks. Just to clarify then, the zero for zero tariffs that the EU decided on this side to eliminate some of the nuisance tariffs, do they kick in tomorrow, or do we have to wait until they're negotiated?
Thanks for your question. You have to wait.
In the back, yeah.
Hello, thank you very much. My question is on wine and spirits, because we are still, as I understand, negotiating about this. So from tomorrow, does the 15% apply to wine and spirits, or we are in 0% until we find a solution for those? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Anna. So the Commission remains determined to achieve and secure the maximum number of carve-outs, including for traditional EU products such as wine and spirits. It is not our expectation that wine and spirits will be included as an exemption in the first group announced by the US tomorrow, and therefore that sector, as with all other economic sectors, will be captured by the 15% ceiling.
Thank you.
Hi, Janos Anbach, Table Media. A question on your fact sheet on the EU-US deal, because the Commission just now confirmed to me that all industrial goods, the EU will eliminate all duties on all industrial goods for the US, but at the same time in the fact sheet you write, while core EU industrial and agricultural sensitivities remain protected. So how do you keep protecting the EU industrial sensitivities if you eliminate all the duties?
Thanks for your question, Janos. Industrial is different to agricultural. So for our key agricultural sensitivities, we keep what we have in place, and the intention is to lower to zero our tariffs on incoming industrial goods from the US.
Thank you. Follow up, and then I go to you.
I didn't ask about the agricultural sensitivities, the industrial sensitivities. How do you keep protecting them?
I don't understand the question, Janos. I'm not clear what you're asking me here.
You keep protecting the agricultural sensitivities by keeping the tariffs. You also say you keep protecting industrial sensitivities, but you lower all the tariffs to zero. So how do you keep protecting the industrial sensitivities?
Thanks. I'll have to come back to you on this in the afternoon.
Hi, Peggy Conlon for Euronews. Regarding the joint statement, which is still being negotiated, I have a very simple question. Is there room for negotiation on EU digital regulation?
Thank you for your question. The answer is absolutely not.
Nicholas Koma, Euractiv. To follow up on Janos' question, does this extend to CBAM, given that you also vow to reduce non-tariff barriers? Would you classify CBAM as a tariff or as a non-tariff barrier? And secondly, my question relates to the energy fact sheet you published last night. In there, you note that there's approximately 20 billion of extra US energy imports that can fill the gap eventually to be left behind by Russia. How exactly, which would boost total imports to 120 billion per annum, this falls half short of the 250 billion pledge. So how exactly will you close that gap?
Thank you.
Anna Kaiser. Okay, sorry, I missed part of the second part, which was about the 20 billion what gap? BCMO money gap.
The question to you, Anna Kaiser, is specifically, given with the fact sheet you have handed out, there remains a 130 billion gap to the pledge.
Overall, it's important not to get hung up on all of these numbers because, I mean, obviously what we will be buying, the price will be determined by the market, not by the Commission, and surely not 3 years in advance. So what we have in the fact sheet shows where we are at the moment. And already, if you look at the import figures for LNG alone, last year the entire volume of LNG from the US was 45.3, and this year alone, in the first 6 months, we're already at 37. So this is already reflected that we are reaching approximately 100 billion already now. And then what we also have to take into account was what I mentioned is about the investment. So that is also not that is not factored in at the moment as a figure. So I would rather again wait for us having an agreement and then looking into the details of what exactly will be included, and then start looking at how the markets determine the price and subsequently also the volume.
Thank you. I would suggest now that we have Anna Kajsa on the podium. I would suggest that if you have any questions for her on the energy side of things, we take them now, and then we can go back to the other questions. Yes. Sorry? We'll come back to it, yes.
Thanks, Christian with ENS Europe. It's also on the fact sheet. It specifically notes an EU overcapacity for LNG imports. So I was wondering, how does striking this deal with a country that's withdrawing from the Paris Agreement to boost imports beyond what the EU can consume domestically align with your ambition to take a leading role on climate action globally? And then specifically on the figures, it mentions $750 billion, which you say is approximately 700 billion euros, but that seems to be more. 700 billion euros is $800 billion in today's exchange rate. So I was wondering, what is it? Is it 700 billion euros or $750 billion?
To clarify, $750. There are quite a lot of assumptions that were made in your question that we would be buying more than we can consume. I mean, why would we buy more than we can consume? I mean, it's the companies that they determine what they need, what their import capacity is, and what is the market situation. This is how it works. As regards the US leaving the Paris Agreement, not the first time, we have increased steadily our imports of US LNG already since 2017, in fact, which was when the first deal with the then US president, who also was Donald Trump at the time, and we have since been increasing the import capacity by investing in infrastructure. And now it is slightly or completely incorrect to interpret these numbers as something that, oh, we will now use 250 per year to buy LNG. This is an incorrect interpretation of these numbers and of the agreement that was made. LNG is one part, and obviously our companies, they will buy what they need. They operate in a very, very liquid market. Especially there will be new actors coming in internationally next year. You asked about what this means in terms of our climate policy. What is important to highlight is that the political agreement that was made on Sunday concerns the next 3 years. 3 years. Our midterm, medium and long-term decarbonisation targets go way beyond. So this will have no impact on our decarbonisation targets. None whatsoever. The agreement is for 3 years. 3 years only.
You have a follow-up? Yeah.
Thanks. No, it's clear. I mean, the 250 billion BCM, or the 250 BCM in import capacity in LNG is an overcapacity. The fact sheet is very clear on that. So, of course, you're not going to buy that. That's an overcapacity. But the point is that you're citing that as a capacity to import and encouraging U.S. exporters to boost their exports, which could lead to a oversupply in the global markets. My question is, how is that compatible with your ambition to take a leading role on climate action? Because these overcapacity might go elsewhere.
This is now speculating two different things. We are stating the facts as they are, because we want to be very transparent of what is the import capacity of our member states when we want to explain that what we have agreed. But we are not asking anyone to produce anything. This is the production capacity of the US to decide. This is for the markets to determine. You produce something if you know that you have someone who's buying. And you have the buyers who then make the decision based on market conditions.
Thank you. It's for Anna Kajsa. Go ahead.
Well, it's for both because it's about the pledge in general. It's obviously, Anna-Kaisa, as you said, is determined by private companies and their decisions. Have you gained a better understanding of what would happen with the deal if the pledge is not met at the end of the contract, so to speak? Do you know, I mean, has the White House spelled out the consequences for you? Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Jorge, but that's going far too far, then it's highly speculative. All we have done is transmit to the US on the energy side, on the business investment side, a kind of a summary of intentions that has been faithfully transmitted to us. It's not legally binding. It's not something that we have in a microscopic level of detail at the moment, but it is sufficiently robust that we could present it to the US as a clear intention. That's where it stands, and we're not going to say more on it for the moment.
Thank you. It's on.
Oui, c'est pour Olof. Bonjour, Adrien de Canon, Agence France Presse. Est-ce que tu peux revenir un petit peu sur le vin, le champagne? Il y a une énorme inquiétude. Est-ce qu'on en sait plus sur les négociations? Qu'est-ce qui va se passer maintenant? Est-ce que vous discutez déjà? Donc demain, donc ce sera 15%, j'imagine. Qu'est-ce que vous pouvez dire à la profession?
Merci pour la question. Je n'ai pas grand-chose à ajouter. On continue des négociations avec nos partenaires américains. Notre objectif, c'est d'avoir une exemption, une exception pour ces produits, vin et des champagnes, spirit drinks, etc. Et on continue des négos. Comme je viens de dire, c'est pas, on comprend pas que ça va être dans le premier tranche d'exemption demain, mais on continue le travail et on essaie d'avoir un bon résultat dès que possible, comme dans d'autres secteurs économiques. And while I'm here, if I may, just to come back to the question on CBAM, I can put it to you very simply that it is accurate to say that the US has raised CBAM as an area of concern. It is also accurate to say that we have made no commitments to change CBAM in the context of this deal.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. It's for Anna-Kaisa, but different topic. Is that okay? No.
Question.
Okay.
I'll come back to you later. I see people have. Is it for Anna-Kaisa? No. Anna-Kaisa only now. I only want to see the hands for Anna-Kaisa. Paula Tama. Is it for Anna-Kaisa? Paula?
Yeah, hi, no, it's for Olof.
Okay, then we can come back to that later. Kate, is it for Anna-Kaisa?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi,
Okay.
Kate Abnett from Reuters. Thank you. It's a follow-up on my colleague's question about the spare LNG import capacity, which is mentioned in the EU fact sheet. So if companies are not using this import capacity currently, it suggests there isn't a commercial or a market incentive to use it. So please could you explain what, if anything, the Commission plans to do to ensure that companies actually make extra purchases of US LNG and the overall pledge is met? Because there doesn't really seem to be the commercial incentive to hit the target based on the current market conditions. Thanks.
Well, that's exactly the last or three last words you said. Current market conditions. Obviously, we are doing this with future in mind. So we have protections which are based on our conversations and discussions with the industry as we were preparing for this agreement. What the Commission can do, obviously, we will not be able to, and wouldn't in any case dictate to companies what they buy and what they want. What we have been doing over the years already, and will continue, is to look into infrastructure bottlenecks, regulatory bottlenecks as well. And there is the one thing that we can do to help is to look into the aggregate facility to pool demand and to map out what the interest is. But obviously, we have come to these assessments that were presented to our US counterparts on Sunday based on a long, thorough consultation also with our industry.
Kate, I see you have a follow-up.
Yes, just a quick follow-up. So to confirm, does the Commission plan to use Aggregate EU to aggregate demand specifically for US gas as opposed to just all non-Russian gas? Thanks.
We're ready to do that, yes, if there is an interest, if there is a request. And then, of course, coming back to your previous question, what we also need to foresee and factor in is the phasing out from Russian energy from the market. There is still Russian LNG in the EU market, which shouldn't be there and won't be there as we go forward. We have presented legislation to this effect. So this is also something that has to be factored in, which is not there in the current numbers yet. And as to the aggregates, an in-house aggregate can be mobilized quickly if needed, as soon as September if there is a need. And this will then, of course, be different from the gas mechanism under the EU Energy and Raw Materials Platform, which will come in mid-26. But there's at the moment we don't have any decision on dedicated aggregate, but this can be done very speedily if there is a need and interest.
And also maybe useful to add in this context that when it comes to energy, you know that we are working on a phasing out from fuels from Russia, and so we need to replace those by alternative sources. So that's also a very important element that comes into the picture to explain the work that lies ahead of us in terms of energy. Still for Anna Kajsa? No, it's for Anna Kajsa? Sorry? Okay. On this, okay.
Thanks, Max Delaney, AFP. Just to follow up on this, I mean, you've just run us through this, and you've said that it's a loose summary, it's a rough intention, and you've said, I think you said, don't get too hung up on the figures when this is all about the figures. So, isn't this, I mean, how do you then justify the argument, or argue against the, well, some people say that this is just the EU giving Donald Trump a very large figure that you have no intention or ability to fulfill simply because he needs big figures as a win in one of these agreements, both this and the investment thing?
To specify on the figures, what I meant was to look at what things cost at the moment and what the volumes are at the moment. Because what we have been saying already before President Trump took office early this year, there was already an agreement between President von der Leyen and then President Joe Biden to increase EU purchases of US LNG. And this has been steadily increasing, and there has been a strong uptick already since the beginning of this year. So what I meant with this was that the figures that refer to what was the import volumes last year, what the volumes are now, do not necessarily represent what is going to happen next year, because as I was saying, there's still a fair bit of Russian LNG in the EU market, and this will be phased out. This is one, and we're still, I mean, we're only talking about LNG. We shouldn't be just talking about LNG, but it goes to other energies as well. And then another thing which is not factored it's not mentioned as a figure in the explainer that we published, is the investments in the nuclear side. This has a big potential, as Commissioner Šefčovič said in his press conference. So these are all factors that we have looked into before coming up with an offer that we have been able to discuss with the US. But what I meant with the figures is that LNG is a highly, highly liquid market, and it's the markets that determine the price.
Thank you very much. Listen, I think we are starting to exhaust the questions on energy. You have raised your hand for quite some time, and then we go back to any last questions you may have on the EU-US trade deal. Yes. Wait, first the gentleman, and then I go to you.
Just on your question with the nuclear investments, can you say whether you have an average expectation for the coming 3 years, what number these nuclear investments will be from today?
So what I can say at the moment is that there are several nuclear energy projects that are being discussed in several member states, and they are at various stages of maturity. And it is also to do with governments looking into ways to reduce dependency on imports of Russian fossil fuels. There is more detailed information. All our member states, I think we're still waiting for 3 or 2, presented their national energy and climate plans, and these already include some indication of their interest to invest in nuclear. So in most of these cases that I mentioned that are ongoing with several member states, the discussions are going with US-based companies about potential cooperation and the use of US technology, and it concerns both large-scale reactors and the small modular reactors. So delivering this will, of course, require significant investment. And that's why our estimate at the moment is that if all these projects are realized, they could account for more than 300 billion euro in undiscounted terms. So for us to comment on individual projects, we cannot do it now because we cannot preempt any possible state aid reviews. And then, of course, at the same time, recalling that use of nuclear is something that half of our member states have decided to do. Energy mix of member states remains intact as enshrined in the treaty. I would also refer you to more generally on the pink communication that we published just 2 months ago, I think it was, where we also signaled that there is a need of around 240 billion euro investment in the nuclear sector. And then, obviously, in the larger scheme of things, investing in the nuclear sector is a very, very important continuation of our decarbonisation policy, because we are looking into electrifying our economy, where nuclear can play an important role.
Thank you. Okay, you had a question for who? Is it for Anna-Kaisa? Okay, and then this will be the last question for Anna-Kaisa. Do not hesitate to reach out to us afterwards, because, guys, I still have journalists, colleagues from you who would like to ask other questions as well. So, okay.
From Mustafa report. And last time it was a question about gas flow from Azerbaijan to Ukraine through Trans-Balkan pipeline. The question was, anything to do with EU, how Commission involved in this agreement, because the next stage is also use this pipeline to deliver gas to Moldova, I believe. So anything to say? Thank you.
This is something that is definitely on our radar, but I have to look into what was exactly the extent of how we were kept informed and how we were involved in this, but definitely something that we of course have on our radar.
Thank you very much. I will now take maybe 1 or 2 more questions on the deal, and then we go to other topics. Yeah. Thank you, Anna-Kaisa.
Raphael Gruber from the Austrian Broadcasting Corporation. It's a question also for Anna-Kaisa, but not on trade. It's because of the 100 milliliter threshold for airport C-free scanners. Sorry. The Commission has now allowed again C-free scanners to be used in some airports, but from what I've read, only from one company, from the UK firm Smiths Detection. My question is, why is there this peu-à-peu approach, like only one provider can use the C-free scanners again? Why not all of them at once? I know it's because of the European Civil Aviation Conference, but you should be in some kind of contact with them, and why don't you coordinate this better, that all the machines can be used? It would be better for not only the airports, but also for the passengers at the airports. Thank you.
You're absolutely right. It would be better, but I mean, this is something that is not in our hands, because we do not conduct any of these assessments. It is ECAC, or this European Civil Aviation Conference, as you mentioned. So we take these assessments as they come. So our understanding for the moment is that other technologies, meaning other companies who produce these scanners, these are ongoing. But it is really for ECAC to conduct these. It is not and then we grant the EU stamp as these recommendations come along. So yes, for sure, for passengers' point of view, easier if, first of all, everybody would have the same devices at all airports. But this is not something that the Commission is deciding on. So therefore, we are ready and in constant contact, obviously, with ECAC as well to see how the situation develops. And given that we are now, we have the technological issues have been, or the technical issues have been solved that were the concern last year, it is very clear that this can now speed up and that more manufacturers and their devices will be getting the EU stamp as soon as possible. But it is ECAC that is coordinating this and that is conducting the evaluation of these scanners, not us.
Thank you. Last question on trade, and then we really have to go to other topics. Thank you.
Hello. It's a non-energy question. So, it's regarding trade, though. Matthew Newman from MLEX, and just going back to the declaration by the White House on Monday regarding digital issues, and I'm curious about this statement and whether or not it still holds, because the Commission was not able really to confirm what the White House was saying that the EU is confirming, in that there will be no network fee faced by companies, and just wondered how this would apply, if this is just an EU-US situation, or is it more global? If Thomas could clarify that'd be great. Thanks. Merci.
Hi, Matthew. I can clarify a little bit. Yesterday what we said with Olaf is that indeed the EU and its member states have the sovereign right to legislate our economic activities here in the European Union. Now, this of course includes digital infrastructure, by the way. Now, speaking of digital infrastructure, we have published a white paper last year in February. Based on the findings of this white paper, we have assessed and we believe that imposing a network fee is not a viable solution. With this in mind, what is important to clarify now is that such an exemption would not apply to US companies only. This would be a general assessment by the Commission. Now let us continue our work, as we said yesterday, on the Digital Networks Act that will now clarify the remaining issues and challenges.
Thank you. Listen, with your kind understanding, we're going to stop the issues on trade now. We are handling this for 45 minutes. You know that we are available. If you have questions, reach out to us. We are there for you. But I would like to give your colleagues that have questions on other topics to raise their hands as well. Please. Thank you. Go ahead. For Thomas.
It's not on trade, but for Thomas.
Okay, shoot.
Valeria Pashko, public broadcaster of Ukraine. It's on SAFE initiative. So 18 member states have submitted their applications to participate in this initiative. But my question regarding Ukraine. Has Ukraine already expressed its interest to participate in it, probably along with other member states, probably in some joint projects, everything you can share with us? Thanks.
Thank you. This allows me to clarify one very important point, is that who is allowed to take loans under our SAFE instrument? It's member states. Now, of course, Ukraine is fully associated to SAFE. We will now, what are the next steps? 18 member states for around 127 billion minimum figure. Now, member states will work on their plans, which projects, with which member states, potentially also with Ukraine. We will then assess these plans, and now is indeed the right moment for Ukraine because they are a big, big part of our SAFE instrument. Now it's the moment for Ukraine also, of course, to get in touch with industry players around Europe, with member states, to be part of these plans that we will receive. So again, Ukraine fully associated, but the loans do not go directly to Ukraine or Norway, for example.
Thank you. Follow-up, or you can, for Thomas, go ahead.
Actually, it's not for Thomas, but it's about Ukraine.
1 second. I know you're there. Anybody else has questions for Thomas? Yep. Go ahead. And then we go to Ukraine.
Thanks very much. It's Rosie Burchard for DW. Thomas, it's about the proposal to partially suspend Israeli access to Horizon. Can you give us an update on this? You put the proposal on the table a few days ago. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Indeed, the proposal is on the table. And the only update I can provide you with is that it's now for the Council to adopt it by qualified majority voting.
Yeah, follow up. Yeah.
Thanks very much. I know we had a technical briefing on this a few days ago and the proposal was released in text, but just as broadcasters, we've not had very much on camera. So can you just remind us why you put the proposal on the table, and can you confirm that the Commission's position has changed from this initial review, which said there had been indications of Israeli breaches of the association agreement, to now that you assess there have been material breaches? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll not go too much into the direction of foreign affairs. I'll leave this to Anwar. More generally speaking, maybe, indeed, we have proposed to partially suspend Israel's participation to Horizon Europe, specifically when it comes to the European Innovation Council Accelerator. Now, this comes as a reaction to the review of Article 2 of the EU-Israel Association Agreement. I leave that part for Anwar, in case he wants to add something.
Thank you, Thomas. Good afternoon, Rosie. Indeed, first, in terms of the process, as Thomas recalled, it's in the hands of the Council as we speak. As you might know, Coreper had a discussion earlier this week. The rotating presidency will continue to work with Member States over the coming weeks. As for substance and the background, as you are all aware of, because we have been also reporting on it to you here on several instances, Israel has announced a daily humanitarian pause in Gaza fighting and has met some of its commitments that we have also in our common understanding in terms of humanitarian aid and access. That being said, the situation remains dire, remains severe, and it's in that context, as Thomas also recalled, that the decision was taken by the College in terms of the proposal of the temporary partial suspension, in terms of Horizon Europe.
Thank you. Let's stay with Thomas still a moment. Questions for Thomas? No? Raise your hands in Interactio if you have questions for Thomas. I believe Maximilian Henning has a question for Thomas.
Yes, thank you very much. Maximilian Henning for Euractiv. I have a question on the AI code of practice. Elon Musk's AI company XAI announced earlier today that it would sign only one part of the AI code of practice. Could you tell me how exactly this means it will be treated differently by the Commission than other companies which signed all 3 chapters of the code of practice? And could you also tell me how this will potentially interact with the DSA investigation ongoing into X already, and also the potential investigation which some member states have been calling for in regards to XAI's chatbot Grok, which is on X? Thank you.
Thank you, Maximilian. Maybe first on your first question on XAI announcing that they would sign only one part of the code of practice. Well, this is a possibility. This is a possibility as the code of practice is voluntary. What is not a possibility is to be compliant with the AI Act. So this is an obligation. Now, how will we deal with next steps? We're assessing the situation. If they are signing to only one chapter of the code of practice, that's very good. We would, of course, prefer all the other chapters too. Now, on the remaining 2 chapters, they will have to demonstrate alternative means of compliance. On your second question, on the DSA, of course, I've also been quite clear on that side that if a large language model or an AI model is embedded into a service that is designated under the Digital Services Act, which is the case for X, risks have to be assessed when they stem from that AI tool, and they have to be properly mitigated.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Thomas on this file, digital? Raise your hands in Interactio only if it is for Thomas. I'll take Marie. Marie from Context.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Bonjour Thomas, j'ai 2 questions. La première donc sur l'IA, la première sur la désignation des autorités nationales compétentes. Est-ce qu'on peut avoir un peu un update, savoir si tous les États membres ont déjà communiqué à la Commission quelles autorités ils allaient désigner, et si c'est pas le cas, quelles peuvent être les conséquences de ce retard? Est-ce que la Commission va tolérer un retard et jusqu'à quel point? Et deuxième question sur les décisions d'adéquation que doivent publier la Commission et l'AI Board. Est-ce que c'est aussi possible de savoir où est-ce qu'on en est? Est-ce que c'est toujours prévu pour le 2 août? Et si ce n'est pas le cas, est-ce que le retard peut avoir des conséquences sur l'entrée en application des règles du Code de bonne pratique? Merci.
Bonjour Marie, je vais commencer par ta deuxième question si tu me permets. Par rapport aux décisions d'adéquation, on avait toujours dit que ce serait avant le 2 août. Je peux te confirmer que ce sera toujours avant le 2 août. Ça ne laisse plus qu'une seule option sur la table, à savoir demain. Donc cette décision sera prise par la Commission et effectivement ensuite on pourra aussi communiquer par rapport aux signataires qui vont justement du coup signer ce code de bonne pratique que nous allons endosser demain. En ce qui concerne les États membres, le dialogue continue avec les États membres. Bien entendu, ils ont l'obligation de désigner une autorité nationale compétente pour la bonne mise en œuvre du règlement sur l'intelligence artificielle. Il est encore un peu trop tôt pour moi à ce stade-là de spéculer sur des prochaines étapes, mais je peux te rassurer, nous sommes en étroite collaboration avec les 27.
Maria Psara, c'est pour Thomas. Maria. I don't know. Okay, then we take other topics, and I think you had a question on Ukraine.
Tatiana Vysotsky, European Pravda, Ukraine. Thank you for this opportunity to have this question. The question is about Ukraine. About 30 minutes ago, Parliament of Ukraine finally adopted the law which restores the independence of Ukrainian anti-corruption institutions. So after the adoption of this law, when the independence of NABU and SAP are restored, does the EU still have any specific concerns or requirements to Ukrainian efforts in anti-corruption sphere? And the second question, will Ukraine receive all the EU funds which was promised? Nothing will be frozen or suspended or anything because of the anti-corruption problems. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. What I can say is that the EU has clearly raised strong concerns about the adoption of the amendments to the Criminal Procedure Code in Ukraine last week. Since then, we have been in close contact with the Ukrainian authorities to remedy the situation. So our messages all along have been really clear. Ukraine must build on this solid foundation as a future EU member state and must preserve the independent anti-corruption bodies, which are the cornerstones of Ukraine's rule of law. When it comes to today's vote, which has taken place just a few minutes ago in the Rada, so the Rada has restored key safeguards ensuring the independence of the anti-corruption bodies. In our view, the new law addresses the key challenges of NABU and SAPO's independence. We will, however, need to check the final text as it has just been adopted. Let me, however, underline that this is not the end of the process. Ukraine accession will require continuous efforts to guarantee a strong capacity to combat corruption and to respect rule of law. We expect Ukraine to deliver on those commitments swiftly and take decisive steps on rule of law. We continue to follow the situation closely and we remain available to support Ukraine in this process.
Thank you very much. It's up. Sorry, take the microphone so that everybody hears what your question is.
The second question was about the financing of Ukraine. So nothing will be frozen as suspected a lot of Ukrainian media and politicians. So will Ukraine receive all the EU funds which were promised Ukraine?
As regards the latest developments, we've made our position really clear. I can confirm there are no such plans as freezing EU funds. What matters for now is that Ukraine has anti-corruption bodies which are independent and that Ukraine puts in place the reforms needed to respect the rule of law.
Thank you. Yep, and then you.
Valeria Pashko, public broadcaster of Ukraine. Speaking of the continuation of efforts, the Commission issued a statement the day before yesterday calling on Kyiv to appoint the director of Economic Security Bureau. But the government did not make this appointment during the very recent meeting. And my question is, are you currently working on some kind of reactions, probably financial one, to such a step on the Ukrainian side? Thanks.
Thank you for your question. So this will allow me to go back to the rule of law situation that I just explained and to touch upon the reforms that you just asked. So as you know, the respect for rule of law and the fight anti-corruption are really fundamental elements of the EU accession path. So Ukraine really needs to continue with a good pace of the reforms to make progress on this EU path. So it requires really effort and dedication, and we understand that those reforms can be complex, but that's the only way forward. In the short term, we expect Ukraine to make progress in the area of rule of law on different issues. First, Ukraine needs to proceed with the swift appointment of the head of the Economic Security Bureau of Ukraine. Ukraine needs to restore the international experts in the High Qualification Commission of Judges Selection Committee. Ukraine needs to proceed with the appointment of 4 international vetted judges to the Constitutional Court. And Ukraine needs to discard the problematic draft amendments to the criminal code and needs to pass the administrative court law. So making progress on all those fronts in different areas of rule of law are really important steps for us, and Ukraine needs to reinforce the rule of law.
Thank you. Yeah.
Angela Scugins from TVP World. Von der Leyen made contact with Zelensky last week regarding her concerns for the bill that he signed. Did he ever end up providing an explanation to her as to why he signed this bill last week in Parliament? And is there any other contact scheduled now that this bill has unwound ostensibly what was done last week? Thank you.
Well, I think this is the past. What matters for now is that we have the safeguards, as we said, and we'll continue to work with Ukraine.
I think it's for Tom on this topic. For Guillaume, sorry. Sorry. Yeah.
It's for you, Stefan, exactly on this topic. A week ago, you were both on the podium on Thursday, and you said that President von der Leyen and President Zelensky had an exchange, the rollback of anti-corruption, etc. The very next day, on Friday, he said that was fake news, that exchange never happened at all. And then a couple of days later, he said on his website that there seems to have been an exchange on the Sunday. So given that it's your last day, were you peddling fake news? Are you hiding something from us?
I can only reiterate what I said before. There was an exchange, indeed, between the President and President Zelensky. It was very important to express the concerns, of course, that we had with regard to steps that were being taken by the Ukrainian authorities, and we see that what the follow-up that has been given by the Ukrainian authorities, and I can only stick to that. Thank you. Is it for Guillaume? No, not for Guillaume. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, Thomas.
Hello, Thomas Melnelson, Euractiv again. I have a question for Ariana. Whether about what will be in the environmental omnibus, if she's able to elaborate on that. Thanks.
Happy to call to the stage my sister in arms, Ariana.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for the question, which is indeed a very interesting one, and for which I think I will need a bit of support from my colleagues. So if you can join me on the podium, that would be great help. Thank you. He did not expect this. So I will not be answering your question on the omnibus, clearly. Leah, no, please.
Thank you.
As Stefan has said today should be his last day at the spokesperson service, but Stefan, you always say that you want to put journalists in the freezer, so we have decided that we will put your transfer in the freezer, and it's going to only happen in 2030. But, jokes aside, we could, of course, not let Stefan finish his last midday without saying a few words, and I'm sure you understand and are happy to celebrate with us. We have joined SPP together in 1st December 2019. So this means that we have been surviving this press room and all the activity behind for almost 6 years, and I've been incredibly blessed to have this journey with you. From the very first moment, you quickly became a rock star of our press room. Most people came to know you during the COVID-19 pandemic with all the interviews and the many hours you have spent on this podium answering all the questions on vaccines and on what we were doing on the emergency. And you did that with clarity, with patience, with professionalism. And especially in those first years, you really became a familiar face for many Europeans through their TVs. And you gave, in my opinion, a fantastic image of the European Commission. So thank you very much for that. You were initially a spokesperson for health, food safety and transport. And then, because that was not enough and the pandemic was not enough, in 2022 you became coordinating spokesperson for the Green Deal and the green transition. And then in December you joined me as deputy chief spokesperson, and this was the best news ever for me, and I think also for the rest of the team that was there at the beginning of the mandate. You were not only a competent colleague, what made you really stand out was your humor and all the jokes that you brought to this press room and to every day we spent working together. You have always been incredibly positive throughout all the hardest times, no matter the situation, and I really would like to thank you for bringing this lightness to our daily life, which is complicated enough. It's really a joy to work with you, and I know for certain that I can say on behalf of the journalists that you are appreciated and respected as a spokesperson, and in my case also an incredible friend. It was really hard to imagine this press room without you, without your humor, without your kindness, without your competence. You will be greatly missed in the press room by the journalists, but I think you will be even more missed on our side of the world, in our offices. You were always there for all of us. You are loyal, reliable, always ready to listen, a fantastic colleague, and I think I can say on behalf of my colleagues, an amazing manager as well. Emma here, your daughter, is certainly very proud of the man and the incredible professional you are, and we are as well. We will miss you very much, Stefan. We are very lucky that you're not going very far away. We thought that, of course, you were great in communicating to journalists, but why keep you only for journalists? Now you will be communicating to everyone, stakeholders, citizens, etc., because Stefan is becoming a director in DG Communication, so not very far from us. Now we just want to give you a huge collective hug, and this is why we're here with you. And a huge thank you and best of luck with your new role.
Thank you very much. I did not see this coming. I would like to, I think it's wonderful. Thank you. I love you all very much. You know that, and you'll be with me all the time. I would like to still thank the invisible people that are doing a fantastic job here, but that are invisible. Our sound folks that are making sure that everything that we say gets to your ears. Our interpreters that manage to translate our mumbling into something understandable. Thank you. Thank you. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of my last midday. Thank you very much and farewell. Thank you.